This is Trinisha Cottrell, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to First Love Yourself, where combined, I am so grateful to have you here, be part of this channel of self-love and empowerment journey that I'm on. But before we get started, if you're new here, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more uplifting, empowering content. So get comfortable because we are about to get into it. Let's go. So today we're going to talk about muddy waters. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, really, where are you going with this, Nisha? You come up with these random topics and I'm always like, but listen, muddy waters come from climates, the season, and other factors. And it's so funny because while I was spending some time with God, he was talking about how things in life. And it's without getting too personal. Sometimes in life, you want things more than God wants those things for you. And I'm not talking about, oh, I'm wishing for a man or I'm wishing for $1 million, although I would accept both. I'm saying that sometimes God will say, not accept both. I will accept the man that God's grace for me, and I will accept the money if it doesn't come idle. Let me go ahead and clarify that. and also, what I mean by that is sometimes we see the things that we want and it's not what we need for our lives and for our life. And so as we are going through life, we think, okay, if I could just have this thing, if I got this, I want this so badly. And God's like, that ain't it. Like, you need to let that go. And sometimes we hold on to things so hard because we forget that God is the God of abundance and he can literally replace it with so many things that are so much better for you. So here are 3 things that happen in this muddy water. So the first thing is climate. Climate is what type of environment you are in. So are you in a lackful mindset? You have to really think of what type of climate are you surrounding yourself with? Are you the type of person who just lives a life saying, I'll never have anything better than this? Do you go to the same store? Do you go to the same restaurant, or you stop at the same fast food joint? Like, are you hanging out with the same type of people? What are you doing with your life? Are you expanding your mind to learn and educate yourself so you'll know that better exists? Are you really putting yourself in a place where you maybe test out your favorite car? Maybe you test drive it, or you go to like sit in the car so you know how it actually feels. Maybe if you can't test drive it because it's one of those cars, maybe you go to the thing and in your mind you just play out you purchasing that car, just paying for it cash. You got racks on stacks on packs of money. Money ain't no thing. You know what I'm saying? And so maybe you do things like that to expand your mind so that you know that better exists. Because if you keep staying in the same climate, it will stagnate you. It will cause you to just be stuck in that position in life. You'll never have better. You'll never have more because you won't see that better exists. You won't know that there is better for you. And sometimes we get into this little loop where we start to blame other people for the reason why we're stuck. We're like, well, if my parents didn't, if my friend didn't, if I didn't date this guy, okay, listen, you didn't date the guy, your parents did. So now it's on you. Now it's time to get unstuck. Now it's time to think better about your life. It's time to do better. You know better. It's like Maya Angelou says, and I like to quote this in almost every video because it's so true. You do the best you can until you know better. And once you know better, you do better. And how do we know better? By expanding our mind and educating ourselves. By actually going to a fancy restaurant that we've never been to because we don't know that we can actually go to a fancy restaurant. I did something earlier this year and it's going to sound ridiculous, but it was the coolest thing ever. I went to this show. I can talk about it. I'm not going to neglect my blessings and pretend like this isn't something that was amazing that I got to attend. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to say too much because I don't want to make it seem like I'm too blessed. But I think it's because although I know that being a Christian is not about being lackful, because so many other Christians talk about being broke, a broke-minded Christian. Sometimes when I get blessed, I feel like I don't want to talk about the blessings that I receive. And I know that sounds so contradictory because I'm the type of person who's empowering people. So at the beginning of not that long ago, actually, I went to this New York Fashion Week show. I said it. There we go. Now I can't take it back because it's alive. But I went. And one of the things I learned is if you buy the tickets in advance, they're not as expensive as they are on the day of the event or the week or the month of the event. So I got these tickets for like the same price of the show that I would have went around here. And I'm like, that's unheard of. It was amazing. It was like everything that I ever dreamed that it would be, because I love fashion. And so the next place I want to go is the next biggest, like another fashion capital of the world, you know? And so it was so cool, so interesting. And I would have never even known that existed, that I could actually attend that event if I hadn't done research, if I hadn't educated myself, if I hadn't learned that, hey, it is possible. Because sometimes when you're not in that position, you don't think that you could ever get there. You don't see how it's possible. But when you educate yourself, when you put yourself in better positions, you start to see that more is possible. The second thing that makes muddy waters is the season. What season in life are you in right now? Or what season in life do you want to be in? Sometimes when we're in the single season, we're like, I can't wait to get married. You're in the married season, or you're in a relationship, you're like, I miss being single, because the grass is greener syndrome is real. It's real high out here in these streets. But listen, you really do have to appreciate where you are. Every single season, pun intended. I had to do it. I had to say something corny in this video because I don't know, it's just so funny. But you really do have to make the most of every single season. If you are in a season of relationships, then you need to be in that relationship. Be grateful for the person that you're with. Set healthy standards and boundaries. Know that you are worth everything that you prayed for. And I'm not talking about you got some unrealistic standards with a 33-page list that you done came up with of likes and dislikes with people, when the thing that you dislike might be the same thing that God said is grace for you, that's going to allow you to be able to be a better person that will glorify the kingdom. So that's why I ripped up the list, and not in the Mike Todd version. I mean, like in the I'm trusting God for it kind of version. And I say that and I feel like a walking contradiction or hypocrite right now, because I'm in a tough situation where I technically released something, but I didn't really release it. And and I'm being obedient-ish. And I know people are probably going to like roll their eyes and be like, okay, you're wearing a face shirt, you got the cross on, and you're sitting here talking about how you're not being obedient to God. And in the Bible, it even states that you doing the wrong thing and you know, not trying to pretend like you're Christian is better than you being Christian and being disobedient. And I know this. I know. And it's not that I don't believe God for it. It's not that I don't know that things will happen eventually and in God's time. I don't know what it is. I get into these periods in my life where it just feels like, okay, well, I gave up all of these things for God. Maybe I can hold on to this one thing. And I know I really should just be like, okay, I'm just going to let this thing go, because if it's not God, or, you know, if it's not going to do blah, then I need to just continue to do whatever it is I need to do in my life, so that, because I never know if God's trying to teach me something in that season, and maybe me letting go is showing God that I trust him, you know. And technically I did let go ish, you know, like like I let go, but I was kind of like, oh, here you go. But it's like you throw the rod into the water and you let the fish go, but you know the fish is thrown in the same spot that the hook is, and you're like, I let the fish go. If it comes back and eats the worm, that's on the fish. You know? No, it's on you. You know what you're doing. Like, you really do have to. You have to love God more than you like a person, place, or thing in your life. And it's not always going to be easy. Like I said, if I feel like the adversary is getting like smarter and smarter, or I don't know what's happening, but if it went from, and this is just an example because I don't want to talk about the stuff that I'm actually going through, but I want to give a good example so I can maybe bless or help somebody else in their life if they're struggling. So it could be as simple, or something like you meet these guys or something and they're all not about it. They all just kind of like willy-nilly. They're like, they deign to be in relationships with you. They're inconsistent. They just are people that talk a real good game but don't have no action to back up any of the things that they ever say. And then you meet this person who is a person they're the person who talks the talk and walks the walk. When they say something, they mean it. They mean what they say and they say what they mean, but it's still not the person. Or, whatever. And you're like, okay, I'd have met like 163 guys. Listen though, stay with me. I'd have met like 163 guys who all were super unintentional. And the one guy that's intentional that I'm into, you're going to say, I got to let this person go. Yes, I understand. God is the God of abundance and he has more. I know that in my mind, but I don't know if it's the flesh. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like, God said it, but does that mean tomorrow you're getting prepared because in a month you're gonna be with and I know you can never put a time limit on God because a day is like a 1,000 years is like a day to God, which makes me even more like I'm working on patience. I really am. That's like my biggest struggle in life is patience, being able to just patiently wait for things. And I'm not impatient in waiting for a person. I'm not impatient on waiting for a job or any of those things. It's more like it's weird because I know what God's promise is, so I know that I'm gonna get it. It's the waiting for it that's like, I'm like, okay, let me just be super busy. And then when God says be still, I'm like, okay, if I'm not busy, I'm gonna be so focused on that person or whatever that I don't have. And most of the time I'm not. So every once in a while I am. But I will be so focused or that thing will start to consume me or I'll start to want it. And then the next thing you know, I don't know how long I'm waiting. And I don't ever want to just be stagnant or just idle because the idle mind goes hungry. And I know God says rest is in the Bible because, even God intentionally placed rest in there so we know to rest, to wait for things. And we don't have to just be busy or look busy to wait on God. I understand that. I really do. It's just logically, faith never makes sense logically. That's another thing too. And one of the things that sometimes people will ask me questions about faith or they'll say things about God and they're like, well, how do you know that God exists? How do you know that he's real? How do you know whatever else? And it's hard to explain to a person who doesn't have God as their number one that faith is the reason why I believe in God. Faith is the hope of things that are not seen. There's nothing that I could do to prove to someone else that God is real. Like there's things that can happen and they can see, oh my gosh, like that's a miracle. Only God could do that. But it's something that each person would have to learn on their own. It's not something that because my opinion or I may talk well, or articulate well or something like that, that I can just break down and all of a sudden make someone a believer. I don't think that's how it works. But I hope that when people see me, they see Christ-likeness. They see Christ-like characteristics. They see me being kind and patient and understanding. They see me having healthy standards and boundaries, honoring and respecting myself. They see me not being jealous or envious or boastful or keeping records of wrongs. I would hope that the person would see that that is who Christ is, that they would see that God is in me, that I'm a woman of God, that I'm a child of God. And that is what I hope people see when they see, and not just a Christian or a religion. I hope they really do see the Christ-likeness in me. And I really feel like if I'm disobedient and I'm a Christian, it's like me saying, oh, well, I'm just going to do the things of the world. So there's really no difference. But I want people to know there is a difference because this faith walk is not easy. It's one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life because you have to die to yourself. You have to really be disciplined and give up things that you really, really, really want a lot. It's not like, oh yeah, I'll give up this thing today and then tomorrow I'll never have to give up anything ever again. No, when you give up things in life, when you're willing to be disciplined, it's showing God your obedience. It's showing God that he can trust you. And I want to be on God's good side. I want God to see that he can trust me with things, that I will wait on him. And I'm really like logically struggling, this whole week, the whole past 2 weeks, because I'm like, okay, it doesn't make sense. So do you want me to be, and I don't know if it's because I'm going to get distracted. I don't know if it's going to mess up my focus. I don't know if because every time I get to the end of a project that I'm working on that will change people's lives or that God placed on my heart for me to do, he always makes me get rid of some guy or something, something that I really like. And I don't know if it's just to prove my alliance to him or if it's because he knows it would become a distraction, because instead of me having that zeal or that power behind my voice from the hurt and from, being a single woman and my strength and independence, I would be interdependent. And instead of me knowing or being able to relate to the people that I'm speaking to, I might not be able to relate as well if I'm in a relationship. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I know God has a plan and he's strategic and he knows way more than I do. So although I don't understand, I have to trust him. The last thing is other factors, people and things that can distract us. Yes, I did dive into that a little bit. I mean, I brushed the surface, but let's go ahead and dive deep. Sometimes whenever you get on track, in order to muddy the waters of your life, the adversary will throw in cynicism, which is negative self-talk, or he will bring people into your life that will distract you from your purpose. A pastor said this once, and it's so true. You can really tell if a person is supposed to be a part of your life or if they're sent from God, if they pull you further away or closer to God. And at first, I didn't understand what that meant, but now I know that means that if I'm reading the Bible, for me, this is what it looks like for me, and it might look the same for you or different. But if I meet a guy and he is not of God, I get distracted when I read the Bible. That man pops into my mind when I'm spending time with God reading my Bible. That's how I can kind of tell, okay, this is probably not from God. Like if I'm reading and I have to read the section 3 to 8 times, because every time I read it, my mind started to wander and I'm thinking, okay, well, this and this happened, or this happened here, or I did this, or whatever else it is. And I have to really remind myself, okay, if I'm not able to focus when I'm reading, usually that's one of the things. I don't know if that will happen when the kingdom spouse comes in, or if it's a person who God sent, for a season, or for that is my kingdom spouse, or whatever else. I also notice that my flesh gets real weak, and it could be, and this is not just one thing. Some people are like one track minded, but it can be something like I eat really healthy, and if I meet a person who is not of God, I start to want to eat all of these unhealthy foods. I want all the delicious desserts. I want to snack and eat all day long. All of a sudden, like that cheeseburger on, I usually don't do cheeseburgers on bread. That's a bad example. But that candy that I don't eat at all of a sudden I want to eat candy. All of a sudden I want to eat like 12 rolls because I'm like, okay. All of a sudden I want to, my grandma throws down in the kitchen. She makes something real delicious. And I'm like, I usually turn this down, but, I start feeling like that. The flesh is the first thing to go. All of the things that seem temporarily satisfactory to me are the first things that I want to give into. And that's usually how I can tell this isn't the person or it's not from God. And I used to be like, okay, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to get my mind right so I can focus. And I met one guy who threw me so off track. It took a whole year for me to refocus my mind in the right way because he was so distracting. And I really never want to be in that position again where I let another guy come into my life to really throw my mind off like that, or to really distract me from what it is that God put on my heart for me to do. And it may sound easy. It may sound like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that. I eat unhealthy anyways. Maybe that's what you're thinking, or you're thinking, well, I already have a man. So, he must be from God because when I saw him, I knew he was my husband, whatever it is, right? But you really do have to use discernment, and you have to check with God if that's really from him or not. I know you want it to be. I know you might be lonely. I don't know, like what people call it. Or you might have this itch to really be with someone, or you might feel like you're 30 something or whatever, and you need to be with someone because society is making you feel bad for being single. and you love being single, whatever it is. Or maybe you hate being single. I don't know what your thing is. But it'll be something like when you make an excuse not to go to church because you want to hang out with this person. When you call in late to Bible study because you've been on the phone with this person so long, you forgot that you attend Bible study every week before you met them. You all of a sudden stop doing stuff that God placed on your heart to do, like in ministry or to help serve other people, because you feel like you only want to serve this man or this woman. That's how you know it's from the adversary and it's not from God. I really hope that that blessed your life, because I didn't know what to look for. I thought if a guy was nice and we were equally yoked, that would be from God. That is not true at all. That, I feel like the adversary can sometimes send people like that because he's trying to make us look weak as Christians. I really do. Because if we had discernment and we knew that regardless if they go to church or not, we still need to check with God. Regardless if they can talk the talk or not, they still need to walk the walk. Regardless if they looking like they looking or not, God is not worried about what it is that we have on some preference list. He's worried about our actual needs, what it is that will actually glorify the kingdom of God. Is this relationship going to benefit him and the kingdom at all? And if the answer is no, or you try to make an excuse and say, well, we both attend Bible study, that is not you glorifying the kingdom. Yes, it's good that you want to build a relationship or learn about the Bible. But if you were attending Bible study and both of y'all met there, that's not you both increasing your relationship with God. That's just you doing what you were normally doing anyways. I mean, the relationship is going to bear fruit. It's going to teach you something that really gives glory to God. It's not just about you looking good because you can post a picture as a couple. It's about you really being intentional with your life and being pleasing to God, you know? And I really hope that made sense. I'm not trying to get on people too much, but I've been there. I've done that. That's why I feel like I could speak on it, because I would never say something or try to help someone in an area that I wasn't struggling in the past. So if there's something that I've done that's really helped me or something that I noticed in myself, I'm willing to be transparent because I want to be held accountable. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to do better. I don't want to just be stagnant and stuck because I feel like, oh, that's all life has to give. You know, when I was researching muddy waters, it said that the appearance of every lake is changing. And that made me think, the appearance of muddy waters or a lake is changing, just like life. You're not always going to be in that same season, so appreciate it. You're not always going to be in that same climate, so go ahead and push yourself to be uncomfortable so you can learn new things, so you can explore new things, so you can go to places that you only dreamed of, because it's more possible than you think. It only seems impossible in your mind because you're going to the same places. You have to expand your horizon so you can see. What you can see is not even all that God can do. That's just one picture. That's just one trip. God is so abundant. He is ready and willing to give you the desires of your heart, as long as it does not put that thing before him and you're glorifying the kingdom. Also, make sure that you're not allowing your mind to tell you who it wants you to be or to tell you that you're not good enough. You are good enough. While life is changing, make the most of the life that you have. Live your life as the best version of you. And that will help clear the muddy waters. So go ahead, keep the comments going. Put in what's your struggle. What's the thing that you're struggling with in life right now? And people in the comments will jump in. I'll jump in. I'll respond and help you to the best of my ability. If you're struggling, someone else probably is struggling as well, and you never know who you might be able to help. So go ahead and leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow.